Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching the special presentation of Sansad TV, Sansad. And in today's edition, we have a very special guest with us, Minister of Electronics and Information Technology and Railways, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav. Sir, welcome to Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us. So since I represent the Parliamentary Channel of India, first of course, my focus is going to be on the bills and the legislations. And we have to begin talking about the draft data protection bill that we've been talking about. Of course, during the last session, it was withdrawn from Parliament. Now, it's a very tightrope, sir, because we also have to ensure that there's privacy of data of billion plus citizens, and also we have to ensure that there's innovation in the data economy that we have. How will you perform that balancing act?
See, the digital economy in India is today a very significant part of the India's total economy. We need to have legislation which is absolutely in tune with the times, in tune with the changing technologies, in tune with what the experience of people across the world has been on data protection so far. And as you have very rightly said, we have to draw that fine balance between privacy, innovation, making sure that the regulation is highly implementable. The journey of the data protection bill was a very interesting journey, and throughout that journey, lots of suggestions, lots of changes happened in the economy itself. So the Joint Committee of Parliament gave 81 amendments in a bill of 99 sections. So we had no option but to withdraw it and start afresh. We have gone at a very good pace. The drafting of the bill is practically complete, and very soon we'll upload it for consultation, and we should be seeing the data protection bill in the Parliament, presented to the Parliament definitely by the budget session.
Alright, sir, we'll see how that shapes up, but two more bills or acts, and there are a lot of speculations I would like to elucidate on that one particularly, the Telecom Bill and also the Digital India Act. Now, what would these acts or bills entail?
So the telecom sector today is regulated by a bill of by an act of 1885, another act of 1933 and another act of 1950. The world has totally changed since then, and telecom is the entry point of digital economy. So we have come up with a very detailed consultation paper, and basis that consultation paper, we have received excellent suggestions from almost all sectors of the industry, from other stakeholders who are not industry participants, but they are stakeholders. Everybody is a stakeholder in telecom today. Yes, we have received those and we have drafted the bill, and we are we are in a final stage of publishing it. We should be able to publish it in coming 7 to 10 days is my outer limit of estimation. Again, the thought process has been, first, the bill has to be technology neutral because technology keeps changing, right? Second, users' protection is paramount. We have to look at users' protection. There are hundreds and hundreds of cyber frauds. Using telecom service as the basis for doing those frauds. How do we prevent those? How do we make sure that there is a very good, clearly defined spectrum allocation regime, purely based on a very transparent method, right? How do we make sure that a large industry which is there, telecom industry, doesn't face any disruption when a new legislation comes in? Keeping all those things in mind, we have drafted the Telecom Bill. Honorable Prime Minister has directed that we should now upload it for consultations, a very widespread consultation. I think that will be a landmark legislation, and that will be globally benchmarked as among the best in the world. That's the target PM has given us. PM Saab has given us the target that our telecom regulatory framework has to be globally best, and that is the thought process with which we are working. Second point that you said is about the whole Digital India. The entire regulation will be focused on, first, the data protection, which is ready. Second will be how do we protect the online users. Yes. Third is replacement of the IT Act. IT Act is of 2000 vintage, and world has changed, right? So with that thought process, in a very cogent, we are coming up with a comprehensive set of legislations for the entire digital economy.
So again, it's a very tightrope walk. On one hand, there's freedom of speech, expression. On the other hand, it's about the maintenance of peace in the environment in terms of regulating the content. How do you plan to do that?
See, recently we had the G20 digital ministers meeting in Indonesia. I interacted with across the continents, across the world, interacted with the digital ministers. Each and every person is today saying that the social fabric, the institutions that we have, the way our societies are designed are today getting disrupted in a very unpredictable manner because of the way social media has entered our lives. So on the positive side, it's a great tool for being able to express what we want to express. Simultaneously, there has to be accountability, because in the analog world, if somebody said something, that was limited to a certain reach. In the digital world, somebody says something, it goes out extensively to a very, very large population in a fraction of seconds. Imagine the disruptive power that has, right? So what is the guarantee that a person whose photo has been morphed and put on a social media platform, that person's dignity, that person's status in society, that person's personal stress on that person, shouldn't that be our legislative framework today? Shouldn't that be part of our legislative framework today? So all those are important societal requisites which have to be addressed by the parliament now.
And perhaps of paramount importance is the safety of women.
Absolutely.
The online abuse.
Absolutely.
Sir, also the fact when we are talking about the online abuse, recently there are a lot of apps defrauding, talking about loans. We understand that RBI will publish a white list. But as the Information and Technology Minister, what are you contemplating?
We definitely see the whole digital world is a very fast, very rapidly evolving world. Technologies change, business models change. It's no longer that for 10-15 years you have a stable technological regime, right? Things change very fast. We will probably have to have a very modular approach. When I spoke with the G20 digital ministers, practically everybody said that we have to have a modular approach. A problem comes today, we should be able to address it with a very focused piece of legislation. And as that technology or business model changes, we should also be able to replace that small modular act or bill or piece of legislation or regulation with another equally focused, equally modular legislation.
Point well taken, sir. So from policies and legislations, now let's talk about 5G. Now we are standing on the threshold of new era probably. So you said that you plan to cover 80% of the country within a very short frame of time. Given the infrastructure that we have right now, how feasible is the idea?
That's very feasible. See, Honorable Prime Minister gave us the target that in telecom, the entire technology stack has to be built. We have to become Atmanirbhar in the entire technology space for telecom, and we should become the exporter of technology. So when we are now going towards launch of 5G, we have worked behind the scenes to make sure that the entire tech stack is available. Telecom technology stack is today available. Infrastructure is today practically available all across the country. In our thought process, we put 700 megahertz for 5G rollout, because 700 megahertz has a very long reach, very wide reach. If you are having only millimeter wave based 5G rollout, then the amount of infrastructure that you need will probably be almost 50 times what we have today. With 700 megahertz rollout, we would be able to leverage the existing infrastructure, the towers which are already set up in the country, which are practically covering a very large part of the country already. Right. Those same towers, that same infrastructure can be used for a better technology now. Right? So that's why we are very confident that in a very short period of time, we should be able to cover the entire country.
Makes sense, sir. But again, there are a lot of speculations. But I, as a consumer, would like to know, how would my life change post 5G? There are a lot of pieces, there are a lot of speculations. But as a minister, how would it change for the consumers? I would like to know it from you.
Fundamental change will be the quality of service. Quality of service will significantly improve. See, two things have happened. One, the old regulatory overhang on the telecom industry is now over.
Yes.
Prime Minister did very big structural reforms in September last year. So the regulatory hang is now over. That's gone. Now, the gap which was there in the spectrum holdings of the telecom service providers, those gaps have now been filled by the recent spectrum auction. With that, this industry is now on a growth path. So from consumers' point of view, what we will be expecting is very good, very high quality of service. Now, quality of service has multiple elements. The speed at which data can be uploaded, downloaded, the quality of the voice call, the assurance that the call will not drop. All those things will significantly improve in the coming years.
All right, sir. Let's also talk about semiconductors now. In the new era of industrial revolution, they are also said that it is going to be the new oil. You have a scheme in place. We also saw the inauguration. It comes at a time when probably the supply chains are shifting from China post-pandemic. What are the opportunities for India and how do you plan to leverage them?
Huge opportunities for the country. See, 10 years back, what was electronics manufacturing in the country? Negligible. Nothing practically. Today, electronics manufacturing is 80 billion US dollars. That's the extent. 25 lakh people are employed in electronics manufacturing, right? That is what Digital India has, Make in India has brought the country to, right? Along with that, this component ecosystem is getting developed. We are daily getting applications for some component coming into the country, which basically means the industry is now maturing to a level where the entire ecosystem is now coming to our country. The most fundamental raw material now will be semiconductor for all this, right? In semiconductor, the advantage India has always had was a very large population of design engineers. We have close to 50,000 semiconductor design engineers working in the country for across the world. There are good large leadership companies for whom these engineers are working. That as the base, when Prime Minister formulated the semiconductor policy, he looked at a 20-year horizon. In that 20-year horizon, the first 5 years, the funding has been already committed, 76,000 crore rupees. And the entire value chain of semiconductor has been covered. And we have committed that we will be developing 85,000 professionals for the semiconductor industry. That kind of talent we have committed to the world. We have already tied up with about 35 universities, topmost universities in the world, who are now changing the course curriculum, designing the course curriculum. Many places the course curriculum has already been designed, put in place. So that's the progress which has happened. And now very serious players are considering India as their next point of investment for semiconductors, because on the one hand, market is visible. On the other hand, a very clearly defined policy framework is visible, and the commitment, proactiveness of the government is very visible to the industry.
Probably, absolutely, sir. But the impact on job generation is one I'd like to understand from you. And the second, investment, and are you in talks with the other multinationals as you mentioned?
The employment in entire electronics manufacturing and semiconductor is part of electronics manufacturing. That entire ecosystem, which is today at 25 lakh, we expect in the coming 4 to 5 years should reach almost 1 crore employment. Industry is growing at 18%, 17% CAGR. And with every passing day, the industry's maturity level is increasing. We are going to have very soon some factories, one single factory will be employing something like 20,000, 30,000 people. Okay. That's the level of employment which we are looking at in this entire industry. So I think it's going to be a great journey going forward.
So, but at the same time, there are concerns about the new and the emerging technologies with AI, big data, the kind of impact that they'll have on our workforce going ahead. That is also an area of concern. That probably reduction of manpower. This is again an area which evinces a lot of concerns.
See, when computers came to the economy,
Yes, that
right,
is a valid argument.
that
Yes, sir.
that same thought process, that same concern was there. Did those concerns actually materialize? Today, the IT industry alone employs close to 6 million, 60 lakh people. 6 million people are employed by the IT industry directly. These are good, high quality jobs. With every wave of technology, there will be concerns in front of us, but the history of last many waves has clearly shown that every wave generates a new wave of employment.
Point well taken, sir. Now let's shift focus to Ministry of Railways. Sir, recently one of the biggest achievements I perhaps think was 80,000 wheels worth 600 crore, the indigenous manufacturing. Going ahead, what are the plans for further indigenization of Indian Railways?
See, when Prime Minister gave this call from the Red Fort that we have to think big and we have to think that which are the things which are still getting imported. We did a very detailed analysis in the Railway Ministry. We found that large level of indigenization has already happened. For example, the entire Vande Bharat was designed and manufactured in India, right? Kavach system is designed and manufactured in India, right? The overhead electrification, that practically it's all designed and manufactured in India. So tracks to the generation, the technology which we are currently using, that is all designed and manufactured in India. What are the two big items which are still we are dependent upon imports for those two items, right? We identified two large items. One is high-speed wheels, which are forged wheels. They have a different technology of manufacturing and a different material of construction, and very high speed and high strength rail tracks. These two items we have identified as we are still importing because we don't have that kind of manufacturing capability in the country so far. And we immediately got on to work, and with clear targets and a very well thought through model of Make in India wheel agreement. With that Make in India wheel agreement, we set out the target, set out the tender, and we are getting very good response from good, well established Indian manufacturers. Next will be the rail segment, high speed rail and high strength rails. And our target is in both these sectors, we have to become exporters. We should not just limit to import substitution. We have to become exporters in both these segments. The Vande Bharat story has again taught us that we can do really big work. Prime Minister Sahab again says, again and again, he says that think big, think of world class, think of global benchmarks. Don't think of just, okay, this is where we are, we improve 10%, we improve 15%. No. We have to think of, this is the global benchmark, how do I do better than the global benchmark? That's the way he always guides us. So with that thinking, Vande Bharat train today at 180 kmph, very stable, very good quality, excellent regeneration. So when the train is braking, when it is applying brakes, it actually becomes a power plant. It generates power and gives that power back to the overhead wires which are there, right? So that's the kind of technology which is being used here. So we are confident in the coming years we would be exporting these trains, we would be exporting a large number of the components, large number of the systems, and also the wheels and tracks and many other systems which are there.
Point taken, sir. And you talked about Vande Bharat. Now again, sir, 400 trains by 2025. That again sounds like an ambitious target. Are we on track?
Absolutely, we are on track. Most important thing is to design the first train. So we took the train which was rolled out in 2019 as the base, and on that base we redesigned the entire train into a totally new generation. It's 38 tons lighter, it has 180 kmph speed potential. The ride index of the train is very good. It's an excellent ride index. So stability of the train is huge. You must have seen that video.
Yes.
In which the train is running at 180 kmph and there is a glass of water put in the driver's cabin. That glass of water is stable. The glass of water is stable, but the world has taken notice. The whole railway industry has got shaken by this. So we are on track to manufacture 400 trains in the coming 3 years, deploy them as Prime Minister has said, connect the entire country using these new generation trains.
So the world has also taken notice of the beautiful railway bridge in Chenab.
Yes.
That also is coming up, I think, is a marvel in India's achievements.
You would be happy to know that the Chenab bridge is higher than the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
It's higher than the Eiffel Tower. It's a very complex engineering task. If you look at the topography of that place, if you look at the geology of those mountains, it's a very, very complex engineering problem. Meticulously, methodically, continuous guidance, continuous review by Prime Minister, this project has today taken this shape. Otherwise, for many years it was languishing. Right. Today it has taken shape, and very soon the dream of connecting Jammu and Kashmir with railways would be fulfilled.
So before we end this conversation, PPP is what the government is focusing on in terms of railways. We're also looking at the railways land policy, the economic outcomes of all of these, and what does it mean for the country as a whole?
Railways has a very important role in India's economy. See, if you look at the logistics cost of a country, it comprises the average of what rail carries and what road carries and what other modes carry, right? It will always come as average of that. If an economy is 100% rail driven, the cost of logistics will be as low as 5 or 6%. If it is 100% road driven, then it will be as high as 16, 17, 18%. So all efficient economies have invested very heavily in rail so that logistics can shift rapidly from road to rail. Right. So that the average cost of logistics in the country should reduce to a significant level. Our target is 8% in the country. To reach that 8% as the logistics cost, we have to increase the rail share to at least 45% of the total cargo. Right. And to do that, we have to make significant investments in railways. So that's why I thank Honorable Prime Minister that in the last budget he increased the budgetary allocation for railways from 1,07,000 crore to 1,37,000 crore. Right. And railways in turn has today increased its absorption capacity. As we speak, we have already crossed more than 50% utilization of the capital allocated to us. So that kind of absorption capacity railway has now developed. Lots of reforms, about 28 reforms on civil construction. Lots of some small reforms, some big reforms, lots of standardization. All those things have happened. So now we should be focusing that we should invest good enough capital in railways so that the country's logistics cost can be reduced.
So are you already seeing the impact of Gati Shakti?
Yes, we are seeing very good impact of Gati Shakti. I'll take one example, Ambaji line between Taranga Hill, Ambaji, Abu Road. This is a very, very prestigious and an excellent opportunity for tourism, for carrying many minerals which are found in that area. When we use the Gati Shakti portal, we realize that there are so many points of intersection with highway, with the power grid line, and with some of the mines and a wildlife sanctuary. What would have caused huge complications during implementing this project is today out. Right. Because we could design the entire alignment in a way that none of those complications will come in. For example, there was a wildlife sanctuary. So instead of going through that wildlife sanctuary, then looking for permissions, getting the environmental ecosystem disturbed, we took it around the wildlife sanctuary, right? So the problem is solved. So that's the power of Gati Shakti.
So no more working in silos. But sir, before we sign off, we hear that in Prime Minister's, for Prime Minister's birthday, you're planning to work for the tuberculosis patients. Tell us more about that.
So we are doing 3 things. See, Honorable Prime Minister has used politics to serve the country, to serve the society. प्रधानमंत्री जी ने राजनीति को सेवा का माध्यम बनाया. That's a big distinct change in the thinking of a society. That's a huge shift in the way politics is practiced in this country, right? Or anywhere in the world. Inspired by that thinking, First thing we are doing is all across the Indian railway stations, we have been making announcements to support a mega blood donation drive. And everywhere the railway institutes, the post offices, they are all supporting that, and we hope that will be a great success tomorrow. We are participating in that. Second is tuberculosis. It's a major issue that we need to solve in the country.
Yes.
So we are participating in that. Third is, this is the first Prime Minister, Modi ji is the first Prime Minister who took cleanliness, स्वच्छता को उन्होंने अपनी ज़िंदगी का एक मिशन बनाया. At a level of a Prime Minister, going down to the streets and making sure that the drive, cleanliness drive becomes part of our narrative day-to-day life, it has made a huge impact in the country. So next 15 days, we are going to take up a mega Swachhata drive, Swachhata campaign throughout the railway system, throughout the post offices, throughout the community service centers, and make sure that we live that dream of service to the society through politics.
Absolutely, sir. On that note, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.